Hey everyone, today I'm starting a video series on how to create your own OpenAI assistant in Salesforce and connect it to a custom knowledge base. For this demo, we'll use a PDF file as our knowledge base and we'll build the assistant using a basic Lightning Web component. I'll keep the LWC simple to demonstrate the assistant setup, but feel free to style or code your own LWC component however you like. First thing first, to use OpenAI Assistant APIs, you will need an OpenAI API key. I'm assuming you already have your OpenAI key with you with some credits available. Next, we need to create an OpenAI Assistant. You can create an OpenAI Assistant through code using OpenAI APIs via Postman or directly from the OpenAI dashboard. For this demo, I've already created an assistant and attached a PDF file to it. So this is how my assistant looks. I have added a name, a release assistant, and I have added instructions like you are an expert search and retrieval bot. You will answer the queries from the files attached. Do not answer anything outside of the file attached. So to make sure that it don't give us output based on its own knowledge base. And I've enabled the file search, and in the file search you'll see that here in the vector store I've added the Salesforce release update PDF file here. If you're not familiar with creating an assistant, don't worry, I'll be making a separate video on how to create OpenAI Assistant via code, via Postman, and directly from the dashboard. Once you have your assistant and API key ready, log into your Salesforce org and create a remote site setting for OpenAI's API. I've already created this and here it looks like. So I've added a name OpenAI here and added this base URL of OpenAI APIs URL. And I've kept it active, and this is how you create a remote site setting. Now create an LWC component and name whatever it likes. So I'm using this Lightning Studio to create my Lightning Web component. So I'll go here and I'll create an Lightning Web component. I'll name it Release Assistant. Make sure that you expose this file and create CSS as well. And make sure you add it to your app page, home page, and Lightning tab. So these three are important, and click on deploy. So you'll see your component here by the name Release Assistant. My bad. So yep, make sure that these are exposed targets, and yep. Before jumping into the code, there are a couple of more steps. Once Lightning Web component is created, go ahead and create a Lightning component tab and choose your Lightning component. So I'll go here and I'll create a new one, and I'll see my Release Assistant here. I can add a name, and add any of the icons. Make sure I'll keep the default setting. Now once the tab is created, go to all apps and open your tab. So the reason you don't see anything is because we don't have anything in the core right now. If you're new to the OpenAI Assistant, I recommend checking out my previous videos on the OpenAI Assistant V2, where I've explained the full architecture of how OpenAI Assistant work. From this point forward, I'll assume you have the basic understanding of OpenAI Assistant, threads, messages, and the run, and other key concepts. Let's start with the code. First, we will make an input box where we will put our queries or search terms. With this, a button to send our queries to our assistant. So I've added a Lightning input and a button. If you check closely, we've added an on change on the Lightning input. Just make sure that whenever I type in this input box, it will call the handle input change JavaScript method. Also, I've added handle button click once I click the button. Now let's see if we have some UI on our custom client. So yep, we have an input box and we have the enter button. Before handling these two JavaScript methods, there's something important we need to address first. The text you input will serve as a message to the assistant. However, these messages are added into thread. So before adding any messages, we need to create a thread. Think of thread as an array where we will be putting all our messages. This means that every time our component loads, a new thread should be created automatically. To achieve this, I will go to my components JavaScript file and add a connected callback. This method will invoke an Apex method that interacts with OpenAI APIs to create a thread. If you can see the code, this is my Apex class. You can see that I have added my API key and the endpoint URL on the top. So this is the way you can add it. I have used custom metadata to store the endpoint and the API key. So it's up to you if you want to use this or this. And if you go down, you'll see that this is the API head. So what I'm doing, I'm hitting this endpoint, and these are the headers. And so once I get the response from OpenAI, I'm returning the thread ID that got created. And in the JavaScript, I am just printing out the thread ID. So now let's test thread creation. So I'll go to my component and see if on every component load a thread is creating or not. This is my component, so I'll open the consoles, and what I'll do is I'll reload it. So the response will see that the thread ID is returning. That means our code is working, and on every component load, we are creating a thread. Now as a thread is getting created, we need to add our messages to the thread. First, let's handle the inputs. This is the code which will handle our query and add it to the query variable. After that, we need to handle the button click. Once the button is clicked, we will call our Apex method that will hit assistant API endpoints, which will add messages to the thread. So we will pass our query and add the thread ID. If you can check the code, this is the endpoint which we need to hit. We will replace the thread ID with the actual thread ID we saved in a JavaScript. And this is the request body we need to send. So role is user, which means it's the users that asking this question or the query. If you're confused about the user, I'll add an article on explaining the OpenAI roles, and you can have a look on that. Now, once we added this request body, this is the kind of response we will expect from the OpenAI Assistant. So it will give me the message ID and all these detailed parameters. So this is how we are creating it in Apex. So we appended our endpoint, and all the other things are same. We are adding this request body and passing down the content which we received from the JavaScript. So once it's done, it will hit the API and we will get a response result as a success. So we are printing here the result response, which will give me the response body, something like this. And let's go ahead and print out the response of message creation on JavaScript as well. So this is the response when we get it. What I'll do is I'll console it in here. So now I'll go and try to run our assistant. So this is our assistant. I'll do this and I'll do this. We can see that our thread is created. Now before adding my query here, we have to understand that it's a knowledge base that is attached to the assistant. In our case, it's a PDF file about Salesforce release update. So I'll add a message something like this. I press enter. You can see that message response came success, which means a message is added into the thread. Now, one of the good things about OpenAI dashboard is that we can see the threads that are getting created and all the messages on it. So if you go to the dashboard of your OpenAI account and go here and click threads, you'll see all the threads that are getting created. So this is the thread we created. So this is the thread ID. It gives me all the information, and below you can see that I've added a message. What is new inflows in this release update that got added? So this is type of confirmation that everything up till now is working fine. So that's it for this video. In our next video, we will run this message using our OpenAI Assistant, and our assistant will do a search in the vector store which have a PDF file in it and give the results.